Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Sunday night story time with Skaaro the Red. Tonight we have another exciting chapter in the ridiculous Ballad of Skaaro the Red, a Neverwinter tale. Previously, Skaaro and Toothless Pete's decapitated undead head on a stick narrowly escaped an erupting volcano on the island of Cannibal Gully Dwarves, using the rowboat Orvalo stole from the Golden Falcon before it exploded and sank. So now, on with Chapter 13. Now far from the volcanic island, the lost tribe of Cannibal Gully Dwarves, Skaaro and Toothless Pete's undead head on a stick rowed southward across the Sea of Swords in their little dinghy in hopes of finding the Neverwinter Isles.
"Hurry up and die already, would ya?"
Toothless Pete said to Skaaro.
"We've been drifting around this cursed sea for 6 days now, and nothing in sight but sea. You've doomed us for sure. I can't wait to have a good laugh at your rotten corpse."
"Bah," Skaaro replied.
"I dunna think you'll have to wait much longer. I've no drinkable water, and I can't find anything to eat in the waters here."
Then, staring at Toothless Pete's desiccated head on a stick a moment, Skaaro grinned and said,
"I'm so hungry right now." "Oh no," Pete interrupted. "You really don't want to do that. I think I've certainly gone rotten by now." "Oh, I don't know about that," Skaaro responded. "Seems that crazy little shaman preserved you pretty good. Can't you just spare a wee strip of peaty jerky for your old pal, Skaaro?" "Oh, aye, that reminds me," Toothless Pete replied. "That nasty little shaman definitely put some crazy poisons on me too. Just one bite is sure to kill ya."
"Ah, it's of no consequence," Skaaro stated, as he gazed westward at the looming clouds in the distance.
"Looks like a storm be headed our way. We're sure to be thrown into the depths of the sea." "Well, that's just lovely, ain't it?" Toothless Pete responded. "I'm to spend all eternity at the bottom of the sea being eaten by fish now, am I?"
Skaaro took Toothless Pete's head on a stick and huddled down in the bottom of his little dinghy. As the storm reached them, the waves struck the little boat, tossing them up and down abruptly. Then the rain began to pour down. Lightning flashed all around them, followed by loud booms of thunder. Skaaro did his best to bail out as much water of the boat as he could, but the waves splashed into the boat and the rain continued pouring down heavily. Skaaro was unable to keep up, and the dinghy was slowly filling with water. Just as it seemed the storm was about to plunge them into the sea, something took hold of their little dinghy and propelled them swiftly through the storm. Despite being half full of water, the little dinghy moved steadily up and over the massive waves. Skaaro wondered what had taken hold of their boat, but because of the darkness of the storm and heavy rain and violent waves, there was very little visibility. Skaaro nonetheless peered over the edge of the boat, and for a brief second he thought he saw a familiar razor-edged tentacle in the water. Was it possible that wretched aboleth somehow survived? Was it following him, keeping him alive, perhaps even using him all this time to fulfill some twisted agenda? For quite some time, the little boat traversed the storm, until finally the rain began to weaken and the waves slowly ebbed. Soon thereafter, the little dinghy was once again in calmer waters, and drifting on its own momentum. No longer was it being propelled by some unknown force. Still clutching Toothless Pete's head on a stick, Skaaro rose and surveyed their surroundings. Directly ahead, a small island was visible on the horizon.
"Looks like you won't be laughing at my corpse today after all," Skaaro stated. "Won't be spending the rest of me days as fish food either," Toothless Pete replied. "Seems Orville was right," Skaaro stated. "I'm not sure if it's in the Neverwinter Isles or not, but it's land nonetheless." "Aye," said Toothless Pete. "Let's just hope this island isn't inhabited by a wild tribe of Cannibal Gully Dwarves, huh?"
"Guess we'll find out soon enough," Skaaro said, as he took hold of the oars and began rowing the little boat towards the island in the distance. As they drew near, they could see the island was actually considerably larger than they initially suspected. But rather than sandy beaches and lush jungles of the previous island, this island was situated atop high sea cliffs, and appeared to be dry, sparse, and inhospitable.
"Looks like we've got some climbing ahead of us,"
Skaaro stated, as their little boat neared the rocky cliffs.
"Wait now," Toothless Pete said. "Look over there to your right. There looks to be a cave just beyond those sharp rocks."
"What good is that?" Skaaro asked.
Sometimes pirates use these sea caves to stash treasures,
Toothless Pete explained.
Well, I'd sell for something to eat. I suppose it's worth a look,
Skaaro responded as he steered the little boat and rowed towards the cave. Once they rounded the sharp rocks, the dark little cave came into full view. The mouth of the cave was just large enough for the boat to drift through and into a long dark tunnel. Skaaro was without any torch to light his way, but somehow his eyes were able to just barely see a short distance ahead as their little dinghy drifted slowly down the rocky tunnel. After a few minutes, the tunnel opened into a large underground cavern, easily 50 paces across, and mostly filled with water, with the exception of a small beach at the far end of it. Skaaro rowed the dinghy across the cavern and up to the little beach. As they approached the beach, a large rock struck the bottom of the boat, cracking the wood, and water started rushing in.
Oh, crap!
Skaaro exclaimed as he slowly climbed out of the boat and into the shallow water. They were near enough to the beach that he was able to just drag the boat the rest of the distance and up onto the rocky shore. The shore was only about 15 paces across, and only a few paces inland. Along the stone walls was another tunnel. This one, however, was above water and seemed to slope upwards. Immediately beside the tunnel opening was a single unlit torch, standing upright in a pile of stones. Skaaro took the torch and found a small striker tied to it. Using the striker, Skaaro sparked and lit the torch.
I knew it,
Toothless Pete exclaimed.
I saw that little cave and knew right away. Well, that boat's done for, so let's hope this cave has another exit, or at least something we can use to fix that boat.
Carrying Toothless Pete's decapitated head on a stick in one hand, and the dimly burning torch in the other, Skaaro ventured into the tunnel. The tunnel was narrow and short, even by dwarven standards. Although it wasn't submerged, it was still damp and slick. While the tunnel seemed to be inclined at first, it flattened out after a few minutes, then began to slope downwards. The further they traveled, the more the tunnel declined, until Skaaro could no longer keep his balance on the slick rocks. With his hands full, unable to grab anything, Skaaro's feet slid out from under him, sending him sliding down the dark tunnel on his butt. As Skaaro slid into the darkness, he dropped the torch and tried to grab hold of the rocky walls, but was already sliding too fast, and the walls too wet to grab hold of. His efforts only caused him to tumble around the tunnel as it continued to decline to near vertical. After several minutes of spinning and bouncing down the tunnel, with Toothless Pete screaming the entire way, Skaaro finally reached the end and slid out abruptly into another cavern, skidded across the stony floor and into a rock face. Dazed and beaten from his ride down the tunnel, Skaaro laid still for a moment before rolling over and sitting up.
Well, that was quite a ride. Shall we go again?
Toothless Pete asked.
I don't know what was worse, getting bashed off the stones or your incessant screaming,
Skaaro responded, casting him an angry glare. As his vision cleared, Skaaro and Toothless Pete found themselves in a massive underground garden. They were surrounded by a myriad of strange glowing plants, giant fungus, huge flowers of all different colors, and swarms of small glowing insects.
I'm beginning to question your pirate stash theory there, Petey,
Skaaro stated.
Aye, Pete replied. This don't look like any pirate stash I've ever seen before.
As they sat for a moment admiring the beautiful garden, they then noticed a small, hazy glowing light moving around at the far side of the cavern.
Shh, Skaaro hushed,
placing a single finger to his lips, then pointing across to the light. Carrying Toothless Pete's head on a stick, Skaaro hid under the foliage and slowly crept towards the light. Each time they moved forward, the light moved a little further away, and eventually down another cave tunnel. They continued to follow the light, beyond the garden and into the tunnel.
Wait,
Toothless Pete tried to speak, but Skaaro covered his mouth with his hand as he pursued the light down the cave tunnel. After following the light for a few minutes down the tunnel, it blinked around a corner and out of sight. Skaaro rushed forward, but thanks to his ability to see in the dark, if only slightly, he managed to stop short of rushing directly off a ledge and into a chasm. Skaaro teetered for a moment before stepping back away from the precipice. Then he felt a slight shock behind him as he was backing up. Skaaro turned about quickly, but at first he saw nothing. Then, with a flash, the glowing orb appeared directly in his face. Startled by the orb, Skaaro stumbled backwards and right off the ledge into the chasm. Both Toothless Pete and Skaaro screamed as they fell into the abyss for several minutes, the strange glowing orb following them closely all the way down. Then, suddenly, their freefall was abruptly stopped by a soft mesh of some kind. They bounced up and down for a moment before slowly coming to rest. Then, once they settled, Skaaro found himself stuck to whatever surface had stopped their fall. The strange glowing orb slowly hovered above them, illuminating their surroundings. All around them was the crisscrossing long white fibrous threads of a spider's web.
Will-o-wisp,
Toothless Pete snarled.
what's that now?
Skaaro asked.
Will-o-wisp,
Pete said more slowly.
nasty little lights that lure stupid folks off of cliffs. Never heard of 'em. I thought it was goblins or pirates or something,
Skaaro responded.
Well, you thought wrong, didn't ya? Now we're gonna be spider food,
Pete retorted. Just then, 8 clustered red eyes appeared in the dark, and the will-o-wisp drifted towards them at the far side of the chasm, illuminating a giant tomb spider, which was already slowly en route towards the immobilized Skaaro. And that's all for chapter 13 of the ridiculous Ballad of Skaaro the Red. Was slightly distracted by the dragon slaying going on here. So I'll finish off this dragon. And if you're enjoying my stories, you like my videos, please like, subscribe, thumbs up, upvote, reshare, whatever, all that fun stuff. And just keep listening. I enjoy doing this. I'm glad that there's some people out there enjoying it, and I really appreciate the views. And I'll see you next week, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/Skaaro the Red. Thanks for watching.